Greetings, everyone. I am David Summersong. Welcome to the simplest possible explanation of the process of human cellular rejuvenation and recovery from dis-ease, depression, imprinting by belief systems, and ignorance. If you are watching on YouTube, you can easily download this and all my talks in an audio format without the slideshow that make it a video, as well as the PDFs on my website, davidsummersong.org. By local corrupt law, I must state that this discourse is not medical practice or diagnosis in any way, and that I claim no credentials of any kind. All content is my own personal opinion only. What we will accomplish in a serialized fashion over the next several dozen pages is to describe how adrenal fevers and kidney energy weakness are the root cause of almost all of life's problems, issues, and pains, and how balance and improved function can be brought about by better understanding of the operation and care of your personal meat machine. In the same way that zebras will not gather around a dry water hole, it is imperative to our continuity of communication to provide you obvious potential value immediately. You can find details about me and my life history on my website. However, I will tell you here some things that will show you where my perspective comes from. I began reading at age 2.5 in 3 languages. As a scientific savant, I was able to ultimately read temporarily and sequentially in 149 languages, and thus was able to research the last 8,000 years of recorded human history while studying martial arts in 83 countries. I became a hands-on healer at age 4 and currently have 63 years of experience helping millions of individuals globally to understand self-healing by using the body electromagnetically instead of intellectually. With body as laboratory, I played in Fight Club and the World's Strongest Man contests. Trekking through the outback of 83 countries acquainted me intimately with the venom of numerous types of insects and reptiles, toxic irritants, weird diseases, and catastrophic injury. I hope that I have pushed a very large block of ice into the center of our dry water hole. Curiosity and reading the available material on my website and listening to my YouTube channel will cause it to begin to melt and will fill in the fine details in my history and will allow you to better understand the viewpoint from which I present divine inspiration. To understand the personal application of spiritual neurobiology, one must gain a viewpoint that it is as broad as possible. In order to do so, it would be advisable for participants to simply listen to the story that I tell and allow the possibility that by perceiving enough of the pieces, the true puzzle will actually become visible to you, rather than to contrast my statements with other more indoctrinated, yet less educated and informed opinion. In order to grasp the biophysical overview necessary to understand your personal situation, it is necessary to expand your field of energy awareness intellectually. It is much easier to tell what an elephant is and to interact with it safely if it is visible rather than appearing as a group of unconnected, invisible mysteries. It will be necessary then to put aside rather than argue with or try to invalidate most of your prior education about how the world functions electromagnetically, how your body actually operates, and where the instructions come from. If you have read this far in my presentation, you are probably not totally in harmony with the status quo and how persons and creatures are treated and have experience in life. This brings us to the crux of the matter. Even though this is a tremendously simplistic path, it is not necessarily easy to retain the directions within one's neurological feeling tone, because in most individuals there is very little free electromagnetic space. The most important thing that you will ever hear or read said in words is this following statement: you can only know the truth by how it feels. The second most important truism that I feel exists is the following: The greatest truth and the greatest lie are exactly the same words. Everything is everything. The imperative difference is how it feels to you. You can only know the truth by how it feels. If you go no further than this in involvement with my rhetoric, you have now learned the ultimate truth of existence that can and will guide you into true harmony in your life if you are allowing and follow the guidance of your belly brain. For those of you who have physical issues and are waiting for me to tell you how to fix them, I am and I will, in my typically circuitous manner of walking around in circles, pointing toward the center from which the vitality of life and the source of consciousness emerge. Current science teaches that everything is made out of energy, and that human cellular tissue has antennae on the surface of it, which receives etheric energy from our non-material selves. I will not take the time or make the effort to point out in any extreme the various impediments such as religions, ideologies, nationalities, food customs, and other conceptual realities that are deliberately put in the path of true freedom and liberated consciousness. Those persons who were born physically from the orifice of a government, a religion, an authority, a political party, or a belief system are rare indeed. If you are not one of them, perhaps you might like to consider the potentiality of joyous, energetic delight as your physical experience of extreme longevity with total vitality and functionality as the result of attaining conscious self-awareness. If one wishes to restore one's meat machine to fully operational status and optimal energetic levels, one must fully engage in renunciation. Apart from involuntary participation in things like circumcision and vaccination, the average human creature has been violated in uncountable ways. These footprints on one's soul often fester and leave irritation and wounds that need to be healed with recognition, compassion, understanding, and self-love. I recognize the level of imprinting towards self-hatred and self-destruction that is rampant in this so-called culture and have great compassion for it. The question on an individual level becomes, what is your balance point on the scale of life? Have you given away more than half of your personal will to authority outside of yourself, as authority has demanded and commanded? Or have you lived a life in passive resistance, and do you have the strength and the courage to claim yourself as part of infinity's emergence of divinity into materiality in order to self-recognize? Will you then allow me to assist you by pointing you toward information that, if allowed to gel and digest within your consciousness, might lead you to interesting conclusions, cleansing from parasitic conceptual realities, and make the road to true freedom clearer in your vision? There is a way that cosmic understanding translates into personal biochemistry. We continue to have the same problems that Jesus, the physicist, had 2,000 years ago. We lack the vocabulary to communicate effectively the simplicity and the activity of the neuronal biological change as it happens, and to describe in sequential detail how and why miracles can and do happen. Jesus the philosopher said, "Greater things than these shall you do in my name." Endless conjectures have been made about the things he said, and modifications to his statements have been made to serve many ends. Presupposing good intentions on the part of Jesus, I made it a point to study the history and life of Jesus in 149 languages and 83 countries. Thus, I became convinced that Jesus was a physicist without a good working vocabulary that could communicate to the masses the functional qualities and effects of a biochemical approach, which is aligned with the understandings of emergence from source energy. Once one evolves and self-educates beyond the limitations of current ignorance and patriarchal control-based pathology, one is free to experience the levels of self-awareness that were talked about by Jesus and many other philosophers, gurus, and practitioners of charitable kindness throughout time. Every type of language and rhetoric has been used to talk about materiality as an impediment to elevated consciousness since the dawn of human history. It is, however, to the advantage of a primitive, violent, self-indulgent, predatory cultural behavior pattern to keep persons distracted from their true natures and the delightful and obvious potentialities in living unaccosted human lives. Consider historically the potentiality in your own life had you been recognized, cherished, and validated for the individual that you truly are, rather than forced into the chaotic life stream, the dash on most tombstones between born and died, that you were. So here we are, sitting in poorly operated meat machines, feeling exhausted and confused. Whatever shall we do? This is where the circle closes, and this is where and how we will begin anew. Decades of study of Taoism, Buddhist philosophy, and every type of martial art has helped me to understand the words and intentions of Jesus. Most persons have at least heard about the concept of grounding one's energy into the earth, and in most cases, people have actually walked on the ground and seen living, growing things all around them. This might seem like an overly simplistic statement, but most people walk around Earth without being connected to it, and then wonder why they have suddenly developed problems. Religions and philosophies all say something about the importance of paying attention to details. What is important to understand is that it is only possible to give feeling tone attention, that is, the attention from the neural ganglia in your belly, not the one in your head, to only one thing at a time. If you look down at your feet when you walk, you will see very little of the life around you. If you look ahead of yourself just 1 degree above the horizon line, you will experience life unfolding for you visually without effort. It is exactly the same thing with the choice between using one's very limited cerebral function, no matter what kind of a brainiac you believe yourself to be, versus the intuitive, neurobiological ganglionic network that is connected to your breath and to the source of life, and is what is referred to as gut feelings. You can only know the truth by how it feels. This cannot be stated often enough or imperatively enough. If you have reached this far in my dissertation, you have already learned this for yourself. If you continue to involve yourself with me on my apparently circuitous dance of non-rationality and finely tuned nuance, I believe that you will be pleased with the result in your own understanding, evolution, and ability to manifest a rejuvenated and improved meat machine as a result of your cleared consciousness and deparasitized electromagnetic field. Much of verbiage has gone into baggage and not being able to carry it through some mystical transition period. Whatever could this mean? What is the baggage and where is everyone going? Unlimitedness, continually emerging from the source of everything, is the energy that moves and has subdivided into manifest creatures with varying degree of intelligence, self-awareness, and mastery in manifestation. Some continue to endure over long periods of time because of simplicity and effectiveness of function. Others exist within various degrees of ephemeralness. What you intend for yourself and what you can authorize and allow in the degree to which you can throw off the imprinting to self-hate and self-destruct will determine your longevity. The most simple question then becomes, to what do you owe allegiance or loyalty? Were you squirted out of the concrete orifice of some bourgeois conceptual reality, or did you emerge from an actual life form that has continuity back to the very beginning of emergence? The persons who will most effectively gain from this course of study will by now have perused my website and read or listened to the talks on circulation, the ones related to universal history, and the talk titled Creating the Female-Friendly Universe. Because of this study, the effective person will now understand the importance of circulating the cerebral spinal fluid and the basic methodology to do so. Additionally, they will understand how deeply they have been defiled and used without sufficient lubrication for lifetimes by those who require submission and obedience from those who are willing to supply it. The extreme importance of seminal retention for males who desire and expect to become truly conscious and vitalized human men with a potential for extreme longevity cannot be understated, as some of my previous talks have already expressed. In order that each person become able to clinically understand their self and how to best configure the results of this process for their own best benefit, we must look at life force and cosmic source energy from the point of view of physics. Racial characteristics and genotypes became the result of manifestation at particular frequencies on the spectrum of potentiality. Behaviors are not produced by environment or racial characteristics. Racial characteristics are produced in accordance with the electromagnetic vibrational pattern that is the accompanying, non-physically manifested etheric consciousness state of attraction. Withdrawing our viewpoint into cosmic space, we can see Earth seething with the energy of comings and goings. Each moment, uncountable numbers of creatures dive from the etheric fields into manifestation and functional form, and others who are unable to retain a cohesive electromagnetic field evaporate back into unlimitedness. Eventually, my circuitous rhetoric will bring us back to the point where adrenal fevers, freckles, and flashbacks are tied to your personal physiological freedom. This realization is so strategically simplistic that it can be considered as a gift to be found on a remote mountaintop, lost somewhere in the fog-shrouded mists of your heart and deepest longing, which can only be reached by perseverance and intentionally climbing the long and steep stairway out of electromagnetic emotional miasma into the clear air and bright light of consciousness attempting to become self-aware. The consistent conditioning away from emotional movement, particularly for males, has resulted in extreme electromagnetic constipation and various types of vibrational disharmony, such as depression, illness, digestive disorders, masturbation, and death. The effectively functioning meat machine, which has reached a level of quality of consciousness where it interacts directly with source energy and is aware of doing so, experiences ecstatic states of being and continually improves in its ability to self-manifest with greater levels of physiological and neurological quality. The words of Jesus, in one way or another, all relate to self-empowerment as a conscious creature of direct emergence. Having faith is something that has been talked about for an awfully long time. What does that mean exactly? What can one have faith in? A mystery? This type of thing becomes difficult to apprehend, feel, and consider within one's feeling tone and belly ganglion without understanding. Jesus' verbiage seemed to continually attempt to mend the gap between spirit and will, between intellect and intuition, between astronomy and astrology, between mind and heart, between effectiveness and compassion, and all the other ways that there are of saying the same thing over and over. There is no question whatsoever that any being who is able to consider the matter has every right to be outraged at the poor design and performance of the universe at large, except for the fact that experience had to be had for understanding to occur. As I have elaborated in my talks on universal history, ignorance on every level, along with judgment, confusion, and curiosity, spewed out wildly within fragmentation as original emergence occurred. Billions of years have gone by while we have recirculated ourselves through manifestation and evaporation so that we could learn how to become consciously aware, compassionate, and worthwhile. Experience has been had, much understanding has occurred. Experience has been had, much understanding has occurred. If we look around us, we will see that each creature has feelings, intentions, and a voice that wants to be heard, recognized, validated, and appreciated. As Earth continues to receive increased light from our star and the more distant ones, and as the speed of light continues to increase, the qualities of the electromagnetic universe, as opposed to the concepts of a thermonuclear universe, with which you were undoubtedly imprinted and taught to believe in, will continue to become more obvious. As astronomy points out where things are in the sky, astrology expresses information about the lines of force and the electrical circuitry of our solar system and the various electrical energetic potentialities from wavefront sources at greater distances. As our point of view continues to expand, we begin to become more able to see that all the things that we have heard during our lifetimes that have some mystical nuance begin to fit into a larger practical reality that, as our detachment grows, becomes more visible to us. Your proper question at this time is, of course, how is this cosmic wandering going to fix the problems with your meat machine? Let us consider the idea of divine inspiration and what the concept might actually mean. As I sit here on my recumbent exercise bicycle in a vibrational space that I find inspiring, my heart attempts to reach out to you, the generic you, my sisters and brothers who are currently within physical manifestation, attempting to communicate a vibrational feeling tone through words and ideas that will be beneficial to you. The totality of my ability is to surrender to Source, to request to be of value, and then to allow willingly the passage of various levels of active foolishness. I quite understand that I have no power to change anything or anyone, and mostly those who are ready to change because of their own inner prompting don't really need to hear from me. So why do I bother? Most realistically, because following the nudges that I get in my belly brain seem to bring me pleasure and contentment within my overall amusement of observing myself as conscious emergence in the circus of unlimitedness. Admittedly, should anything I say or do result in more personal freedom for creatures on Earth, I would be delighted. If I can encourage renunciation of conceptuality, rituals, and baptisms that have been done around you and to you, and all the ways you have submitted and surrendered in slavery to the vileness of the patriarchy and its behaviors, I certainly will be pleased. Should my words encourage personal freedom in females so that they cease to debase themselves with chemicals and costumes, and that they understand that there cannot possibly be a standard by which they should be judged in any manner, degree, or way, because each female is a direct emergence from essential essence and is a flower seeking sufficient unaccosted space to manifest freely, I would certainly dance for joy. I have been preparing myself on a heart level for lifetimes to attract a dynamic and personally free female essence that agrees with the radicalness of my wild and free self-expression and understands that together we could potentially demonstrate a quality of spiritual compatibility and radiant healing, unconditional loving essence that heretofore has not been part of creation's show and tell. It is probably your personal call to determine whether you consider that I have a vested interest here because I want to promote the potentiality of a planet filled with loving, happy, healthy, harmonious, conscious individuals rather than the solidified scum with large military hats that now presumptuously enslave humanity and violate the earth for insane and destructive reasons. Most persons have probably heard some reference to the inner and the outer, the microscopic and the macroscopic, the law of attraction, and words about self-talk. As my circular rhetoric moves around the various subject matter pointing toward the center, a sense of relationships and causalities will begin to become more obvious to you, and you will find that your body is indeed changing and coming into more harmony with my point of view and my hopeful and compassionate, energetic, vibrational feeling tone, which is directed toward you. The effectiveness of directly commanding one's meat machine to change, call it shapeshifting, is based entirely on one's true level of electromagnetic entitlement and lack of static cling. Jesus called this faith and said if you had even the tiniest amount, you could produce miracles. The problem here is the same as the problem that has always existed: fragmentation and static cling. Even on a human level, it is very obvious when a person has mixed feelings. Imagine that you start out at a certain size, and every time you are indecisive or have mixed feelings about a new experience, part of you breaks off and subdivides into its own attitude identity. Over billions of years of this happening to us all, while we gathered enough experience for understanding to occur, we have come and gone into and from manifestation with our larger selves very loosely assembled and with parts scattered widely. We have spent lifetimes attempting to recover and reassemble in some holistic way. So here we each are, one single person among the stardust of the universe, tiny by comparison, beyond any way of counting, and yet we have aspiration, desire, and longing. It has been said that longing is the strongest force in existence, and that it brought forth emergence from the heart of reluctance. On a planet that is heavily infested with denial creatures that deny that they are denying, it takes great force of will to supersede the vibration of denial, diminishment, and death. Considering the difference between whatever information you have previously been given about life and how it gets that way, and the absolutely simplistic truth that everything is energy emerging from source and attempting to gain consciousness may give you food for thought and may even potentially assist you in amending your life's path towards something that you might actually prefer and enjoy. Let us begin to conjoin the cosmic issues with adrenal fevers and the results thereof. One of the neurological problems that has resulted from immersion in a parasitic and stress-inducing culture based on lies, war, and control is an improper development in the brain lobes in most persons. By and large, the reptilian survival-based portions of the brain have grown far beyond appropriateness with tendrils throughout the other brain lobes. So instead of your self-assurance and personal strength sitting quietly in the peace and cozy warmth at the base of your spine behind your belly button, it is perched on top of your forebrain like an exhausted crew member left forever in the crow's nest of a ship on a tumultuous sea. Pre-birth stress, stress over lifetimes, and an inability to gain steadfast footing within the vibrational pattern of a reasonably sane world has caused the reptilian portion of most persons' brains to remain on high alert. This has resulted in a caffeinated civilization that would flatline without the stimulants, which I call artificial enthusiasm. If you are able to consider, even just intellectually, what true calm, peacefulness, and gratitude of heart might feel like, you will probably agree that it is largely different from your general experience. Considering that limitless energy seeking consciousness and involving a portion of itself with you in the midst of unimaginable vastness is pretty unlimited, there is kind of a conflict with any type of conceptuality that you choose to espouse. Now that you have the beginnings of an appropriate understanding, How will you get your personal meat machine to tune in and cooperate with your new point of view? Knowing that you are a portion of emergence and feeling it within the physical aspects of your manifestation is interfered with by your electromagnetic static cling, which you have gained experientially through lifetimes and through imprinting. How then will you remove, negate, and/or discharge the static cling that inhibits your cosmic level consciousness and physiological expression of and participation in joyous, unbounded ecstasy? Suggesting that you use your body as a rheostat to heal yourself or anyone else when you do not have the appropriate belly-level sense of groundedness and vital electromagnetic empowerment is similar to saying that you can put your shoes on while you're floating in the air. There is a gap here that needs to be recognized before it can be crossed. If you have ever had a sliver of something in your skin or a cactus needle, you know that some pain and effort is part of the removal and recovery process. This is not a dissimilar situation. A colonic cleansing on an electromagnetic and emotional level is required. One of the most severe and evil expressions of the patriarchy is against the showing and moving of honest emotion, because that is where your personal power is hidden. If unlimited energy can materialize in such a way as to actually have and acknowledge feeling, how can solidified scum in large military hats possibly have the authority in anyone's life to diminish the observation and participation in absolute truth? Were you born to be a slave or to be a shining star, expressing your personal beauty and uniqueness within unimaginable yet entirely feelable hugeness? So as you begin to understand that I am not trying to peddle religion or parallel myself with Jesus, rather to make it more possible for you to understand and to merge with his point of view for your own best purposes, simply because he was one of a very small group of persons who has expressed intelligent, worthwhile, and humane information during human history. If you are able to be open to simplistic healing, everything becomes easy and amusing. You cannot awaken someone who is pretending to be asleep. Denial creatures infest this world like maggots on your pizza. You cannot, in your best interest, confuse them with conscious beings. They are the result of fear and unconscious pain that has not changed or learned since the beginning of emergence. Healing for these beings and all the other voices of insincerity could have already happened, except for the confused compassion of those who have been drawn outside of themselves and immersed into the melee of insanity, where they feed the dark forces with their vitality because they surrender to ritual and authority. If you have realized enough thus far to be insulted by how your life has been commandeered, perhaps you will begin your own rituals of renunciation and reclamation of your personal power from the vile, dirty filth that masquerades as authority and intervention between you and unlimited source energy. As you renounce the baptisms of collusion to which you have been subjected unwillingly, you will find your internal personal space expanding greatly. The more you renounce, the more you recognize that needs renouncing. The more you will begin to be able to feel your real potential as an unlimited creature of loving emergence. Personal power is not something that you are going to find or get by following my train of feeling, tone, and rhetoric. It is more like there is a flower growing under a large rock in the middle of your dehydrated heart. As the combination of your chipping away at it with your sense of rage and insult, along with the river of your hot tears of injury, frustration, loneliness, longing, and determination, will reduce the rock to fertilizer and nourish your flower into blooming in ways that currently surpass your ability to imagine, because you do not have the space in your electromagnetic awareness to provide parking, since most of it is still occupied by garbage, which is held in place by experiential memory-derived static cling. As I mentioned previously, I am an accomplished martial artist who has played very successfully in Fight Club extensively and participated in the World's Strongest Man contest. I repeat this because I want to reinforce for you how ridiculous the admonition to stifle emotion, particularly in men, is. If you believe this is appropriate behavior and makes you some sort of a manly man, stop using the toilet because you can handle it. I have been crying spontaneously whenever moved by my feelings for at least 45 years. I am willing to put heavy money on the odds that the little, vile, denial cowards who will spew negativity and commentary on my suggestion that real men cry as necessary will never have the courage to say this to my face. This should suggest to you the absolute necessity of looking closely at and evaluating from a feeling tone place. You can only know the truth by how it feels, the persons from which you willingly accept information or ideology. It is my intention to assist you in your quest for personal freedom and true existence in an unlimited universe. If you are able to understand that feeling, not thinking, is the source of your personal power, life, and vitality, you will readily expand your energetic field and continue to exist because you are able to keep your vital electromagnetic space open for yourself in the midst of intense stellar pressure toward disintegration and grow in participation in life in the garden of the goddess. The essence of essential femininity opens space for material reality to occur within. Earth was meant to be a garden of pleasure and delight. Femininity was blamed by the vileness of males, who were not men, for how it went wrong the first time. Consecration of and honoring of female essence as damaged source, which requires unconditional, loving acceptance to heal, will transform the destructive and self-destructive nature of males into something that is a pleasure to experience. Of course, this presupposes that there are males who wish to evolve into men who are worth the dust and minerals which make up their physiologic manifestation. It goes without saying that one's vibrational appearance, that is to say one's physical manifestation, is the result of neurological focus. You are what you eat, what you believe, what you think about, what you say, what you want, what you think you need, and what your deepest longing aspires to. Since this rhetoric continues to pour through me insistently, I imagine that there is more to be said, and if so, I will make it available to those who are interested. Castaneda used the terms attention point and intending to intend. Bruce Lee talked about gaining expertise through repetitive intentionality. Practice makes perfect. It is unlikely that you will immediately succeed in gaining contiguous cosmic consciousness. Please do not be discouraged because the key is your allowingness. The more that you can allow the flashbacks of insanity, which have been attached to you like flypaper, to be an internal movie that you watch while you validate and move appropriately the accompanying emotion, the more quickly whatever you think is wrong in or with your life will change and heal. If you would like me to be very personal and tell you exactly what I do with the breaths and moments of my own private life, I will. I make every attempt to realize within my feeling nature my connection and alignment with ultimate source energy and to understand the absurdity of capitulating to denial and limitation on the level of physical manifestation. I do this with all the energy, passion, and intentionality that is available within my state of consciousness and life force vitality. A person can focus their belly brain on the one and only source of emergence and experience joyous peace and calm, or allow themselves to be displaced from inner awareness by the infinite plenitude of denial, ignorance, and stupidity. You get to choose. I've made my choice, and I like the results of how it feels and what unlimited potentiality has suggested to me as pleasurable possibility. I hope that you know that not choosing is a choice and that you will enjoy the results of your consideration of this matter. I am grateful for the opportunity to allow the subject matter to pour through me and hope that it is of benefit to you. Experience had to be had so that understanding could occur, and you would be able to know the truth by how it feels. If you like what you experience, revel in it with gratitude and delight. If you do not, perhaps you will consider what changes need to be made in your choices of where and how you surrender energy. I hope that our original block of ice in the center of our dry waterfall has melted in your heart and washed it clean. Drink deeply from the fountain of renunciation and true alignment, and you will become invigorated, rejuvenated, delighted, and healthy beyond your wildest imaginings. As Jesus said, if you have the smallest iota of faith in the potentiality of unlimitedness, you too can perform miracles with the body as rheostat. The modulation of electromagnetic impingement for increased operational effectiveness in individual meat machines can be learned by what Jesus tried to tell people. If you increase your ability to hold energy through expansion of conscious awareness and deliberate cleansing of electromagnetic static cling, you can use your own body as a healing rheostat because you can then supply unlimited resistance to the overwhelmed experiential memory-induced static cling of the person that you are assisting, and thus dissipate the field strength, acquainting the individual with a different electromagnetic vibrational overtone that is healthier, cleaner, and more balanced. The stronger one's ability is to resist involvement in extraneous energy movement around one and displacement from one's core attention point by manifest physical reality, the more easily effective the movement of interpersonal healing energy occurs. Jesus commented that someone was healed by touching him and that he was aware of and felt the energy exchange. He also suggested that the time would come when persons were intelligent, courageous, and self-aware enough to actually understand the directions given in his dissertations on the physics of manifestation that were deliberately corrupted by the patriarchy in order to control and enslave you over lifetimes. Part of my reason for this series of pages is to determine if that time has arrived and if persons of quality will come forth to embrace and support the potentialities that can occur if these slices of feeling tone are widely distributed to creatures that are alive and willful enough to receive them and to take action to feel, live, and share this point of view. In order to acquaint ourselves further with ways to improve on our self-manifestation of our meat machines, we must engage in considerations of some of the unconscious behavior patterns of said meat machines. This will be an activity akin to bird watching and description of various bird behaviors and rituals. Should this strike you as some type of racial or judgmental profiling, be advised that this is more of the imprinted static cling and psychic trash attached to your electromagnetic field. Let us begin by examining affinities that both affect the genotype and are the result of the vibrational pattern that produces it from the etheric field. You may have witnessed some individuals, generally males, who will remove the top of a salt shaker in order to dispense tremendous excess of salt onto their food. They also tend to have very small ears, have enormous anger, energy pent up in their livers, require loud noises to stimulate their feeling tone, consume alcohol, tobacco, and other stimulants, and often end up on kidney dialysis. The important thing in the examinations of these various bird tribes will be to notice the various ways that creatures find their way to kidney failure, weakness, and adrenal exhaustion. Another tribe of birds, imprinted by the harshness of the distant past, grows beard and wraps hair around their ears, so that when dust storms come up, they can pull the beard up over their face and eyes, unwrap the hair from around their ears, and engage it across their face to produce a breathable mask. These same birds have a cultural natural excess of sternness and rigidity, attachment to the materials that they can gather, grieve excessively, compensate themselves with peculiar foods and food rules, perform rituals that are self-demeaning, and eventually die of exotic diseases, which are produced by sadness lodged in the kidneys. Another tribe of birds is hyperactive, judgmental, and full of fear. They self-promote themselves as necessary to the order and safety of the planet, yet are the largest portion of the problems on Earth. They may be subdivided into insincere and duplicitous zealots of various types who are often pedophiles and or aligned with the dark side. Ultimately, their rage and control issues produce congestive heart failure, which takes a while to kill them, by ultimately resulting in adrenal exhaustion and a lack of energy in the kidneys. Another tribe of birds collectively decided to bring about imbalance in their organ function through the magically poisonous potato. The rapid metabolization of its sugars through the human organism creates extreme waves in biochemical function, which is exhibited by liver exhaustion in things like temper fits, alcohol consumption, fighting, church-going, and other types of antisocial and self-destructive behaviors. Another tribe of birds can be called confluent. What this means is that they are excessively merged with each other and are unable to self-authorize individuality. This produces lung congestion, spitting, small size, fantastically erratic levels of consciousness moving through their culture at large, producing extremes of beauty and depravity, but ultimately creating a sense of hopelessness which suppresses kidney energy. These are just a tiny entry into your bird-watching life catalog. The mixing that has happened in the energy fluid of eternity as it is sorting itself out according to affinity and density is as endless as possibility itself. I could go on for days subdividing and parsing the idiosyncrasies of humanity's path of self-destruction, self-denial, and avoidance of examining the absolute truth in order to participate in a self-indulgent and self-created delusion. One of the reasons that each generation of humans is becoming weaker and more frail is because when one is born into physicality through the auspices of folks who were here first, one inherits from them the physical level of energy that is contained within their kidneys and is also taught to harmonize with the neurological patterns that flow through their synapses. This patterning usually is not recognized, does not change, is passed on from generation to generation, and is one of the deepest reasons that persons often react poorly when reminded how much they are like their parents. It is because they have never individualized sufficiently enough to develop their own conscious neurological pattern and independent breathing cycle. Generation after generation, you have persons reinforcing self-negation and self-denial. You have persons embracing every type of parasitic ideology that is available and creating new ones as they go. Most creatures have been beaten down through so many lifetimes that they have given up seeking to have independent, self-willed communication with absolute source. This works to the advantage of the parasitic patriarchy, composed of solidified scum with large military hats, who live off your vitality and compliance because they will not align with source energy and thus are not fed by loving light. If you are participating in this conversation, it is likely that you are already in a human body. Are you able to consider within your belly brain and feeling tone that it could be to your advantage to become independent of the infections of conceptual reality that are consuming you, breath by breath? Most creatures behave as if they were chickens running in dense fog, banging into and encountering whatever happens to be there, rather than being able to see and follow a clear path of their choice toward the destiny, self-expression, and experience that they seek. The question then becomes, where do chickens get fog lights and clarifying goggles? The only source for anything real is inside oneself. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. If one hears this intellectually, it gives some sort of a pretty but weird picture that really makes no sense and gives no satisfaction. If, however, one is able to apprehend this statement with the belly-brain ganglia and experience it through will-based feeling awareness, it is the secret to everything and brings peace, harmony, and relief from life's trials. Yea, though I walk through the valley of blah, blah, blah. Please be assured that I am not trying to sell you religion of any nature, rather true realization. A dear friend of mine at age 4 said, I sat down, I meditated, and I realized God. Do you understand that the gap between you and an ecstatic and delightful human experience is as thin as a thought and as wide as a delusion? Versus your level of imprinting toward self-contempt and self-hatred will determine how far you find it necessary to walk down the road of self-destruction and whether you actually choose life over self-extermination through ignorance, self-indulgence, and neglect. Can you feel that in each moment and each breath more and more of emergent energy becomes vitalized and conscious? It is happening within you of self-love. It is happening to us all. The speed of light is increasing, thereby causing all of creation to play catch-up. Viewing creation as a gigantic caterpillar or millipede, one can see that not all of the segments are moving at the same speed or even going in the same direction. If one chooses to align with the unconditionally loving light emerging from true source and deliberately and continually asked to be fed and nourished by unwavering connection with essence, one will find that their ability to align and to stay aligned gradually and delightfully increases. Practice makes perfect. What we put our attention on increases. With unlimited potential, what do you want to become, and what do you want to do to demonstrate your individuality within cosmic existence? We have all gone through the dance of fragmentation, of manifestation and evaporation, of life and death, of aware and unaware, more times than can be counted. Experience has been had. Understanding has occurred. Enough information is now available to truly explain the physics that Jesus tried to teach, to follow his direction, to produce greater miracles in his name, and to explain clearly in words and concepts exactly how it happens. Miracles 101. This is where you learn true manifestation from the power of your own soul's connection to Source without an intermediary made of parasitic concepts that feeds on your life force. Referring back to my talks on circulation, you have obviously by now become self-aware and self-disciplined enough to be taking the time to circulate your cerebral spinal fluid on a daily basis. If you keep participating in my particular type of babble on, you will continue to find your body responding by becoming calmer and more at peace. This will eventually bring you to a point where you are clear and calm enough to understand that there is now within you a greater awareness of and hunger for an even more direct connection with source energy, and that you are now capable of seeing, feeling, and recognizing the necessity within yourself for this quest to absolutely and directly encounter unlimited essence within your own personal physiology and neurology so that you can really exist happily here. When you have reached this point, I will be happy to refer you to the various websites, talks, and videos by my friend, the early meditator, Prem Rawat. My study of everything and deliberate encounters with any world figure who claimed any sort of authoritative self-knowledge brought me to him years ago. I found that his point of view was absolute in terms of its connection to original source essence. My breath-by-breath decision to attempt to integrate his instruction toward acquiring power through unconditional loving surrender caused me to gradually understand that this cannot be approached intellectually, but must be integrated into feeling awareness. This choice of destiny has allowed me to live long enough to acquire my current point of view and delight with the process. If one is avidly seeking expansion within their own personal consciousness and is a serious reader, I would recommend the series of books that may be found on the website rightuseofwill.com. If this course of action is followed, the book Feelings Matter may be read alongside and congruent with the Will Book series. Doing this will create the largest and most active upheaval possible within your psychic and etheric trash piles and will assist you in examining your hoard of petrified experience. Consider your psychic space as a warehouse filled with empty boxes, some of which once contained dreams. They've all gotten soggy and moldy. Because they sit continually in the fog of your stifled self-expression, frustration, hopelessness, denial, depression, and sadness, all of which negatively affect your kidney energy. If you do not feel that you fit this criterion, stand up right now and shout for joy, not from your intellect, but from the very essence of your being. If this feels a little awkward to you, perhaps you might want to reconsider everything that I've said until there is nothing left inside of you that can disagree with the absolute obviousness of the potential to experience ecstatic and unrelenting joyousness, happiness, laughter, and amusement as you become more and more invigorated and filled with life, radiant power, and compassionate light. So how is all this abstruse nonsense going to fix your meat machine, which is currently so exhausted and funky that it is making you crazy to even read the stuff? If you're listening to me, the laughter, pleasure, and humor in my voice is probably bringing you to tears. This is a wonderful thing. The more you can allow the river of your tears to move through you and to melt any trace of the electromagnetic static cling of your prior experience, the more you will become available to be enjoyably participant with the ecstatic moment point. Laugh along with me. The best is yet to be. The awareness of life for which the foolishness was made. Experience has been had. Understanding has occurred. The gateway to unlimited experience on the garden of the goddess has been opened. Will you be one of the ones who walks through? I'll be waiting to welcome you.